Greetings all! Today, we will be examining the uncommon fighting-type Pokemon Crabrawler, the Boxing Pokémon, and its exceptionally rare fighting Ice-type evolution Crabominable, the Woolly Crab Pokémon. While they certainly might not be among the most conventional of fighting-type Pokemon, the members of the Crabrawler family are powerful crustaceans that can more than use their powerful limbs to smash and crush anything that dares to challenge them to a fight. Crabrawler have purple bodies with a multi-segment exoskeleton consisting of a series of 3 smooth plates that form their main torso and the back of their neck, a ribbed bottom end with blue stripes, and a pale beige front ribbed plate on the front that forms their chest and belly area. Their 4 legs have 2 segments to them with beige joints and blue tips, while their arms are beige in color and rather thin and tube-like, ending in a pair of large blue claws that have purple connecting ends and a rounded blue form, with their lower pincers looking rounded in form and fitting clean into their upper claw to make for a smooth form like a boxing glove. Their large eyes have a small black pupil, and one of them is almost always partially closed due to a genetic abnormality, and their small purple mouths are marked by a pair of hard, purple, knife-like blades, their heads further being adorned with a pair of beige, cone-like antenna crests on the top that extend out and away from their head. Their evolved form, Crabominable, retain a base purple color and body pattern as seen in Crabrawler, minus their belly and chest area, which is now completely purple, but almost all of this is hidden under a thick layer of white hair. Their arms have changed form and now consist of a series of 3 round segments per arm, with an outgrowth of hair on the ends and rounded ends on their pincers, which now have a purple, 4-fingered paw-like pattern on the blue ends, and are used more for crushing than picking things up. Their bodies have a more teardrop-shaped form to them, with sections of exposed exoskeleton on their chest, parts of their arms, and in 2 spots on their back, their face being blue and the top of their head being adorned with a mat and 2 large long bits of beige hair, while their eyes have grown smaller in size and their mouth larger, with a pinkish-red interior and a pair of small, blunt upper canines visible when they open their mouth. Although the members of the Crabrawler family are crabs, they are different from most because they do not have most of the typical elemental attributes usually associated with crabs. They do have access to a few different water-type moves, but these moves are dwarfed by their incredible access to fighting-type attacks, and because they seem to be completely land-based with no interest or ability to live in the water, they are in turn classified as fighting types without much of the water-type attributes observed in other types of crustacean Pokémon. Instead of developing pincers made for cutting or grabbing things, the members of this family have developed a unique claw structure that is mainly designed for the act of punching and crushing objects that are near them, and they are quite gifted in using their claws in this manner, using stored elastic potential energy in their arm joints to punch fiercely and deliver powerful attacks like Dizzy Punch, Dynamic Punch, and even close combat with enough force to split a tree in half. As a result of this, these creatures have effectively isolated themselves to the land and only ever go to the water in order to breed, and even then, they usually only do so about once a year. These crabs have mastered the art of using their claws as boxing gloves and crushers, oftentimes keeping them raised in front of them to act as a guard against attack, which they have to do as their carapaces are a bit softer than that of similar Pokémon. This works to their advantage, however, as it allows these creatures to use their pincers to wait out an opponent until they make a mistake and leave themselves open to attack, at which point, these crabs can take advantage of the situation and hit them where it hurts the most. It is not uncommon for these creatures to strike with their appendages so hard that they break off as a result of the weaker connective tissue holding the claws in place in exchange for greater elasticity for recoil. But they can usually regrow broken claws within a day or so, and what little meat is inside the broken appendages is said to be quite delicious. The sheer tenacity that these creatures demonstrate with their punching attacks in close quarters and their seemingly indomitable fighting spirit is what allows them to possess the Hyper Cutter and Iron Fist abilities as base abilities, while those that are particularly tenacious and show a great deal of rage when their most vulnerable parts are attacked can also possess the Anger Point ability as a hidden ability. As far as their stats go, in the case of Crabominable, while these beasts can be quite intimidating, their bodies are still on the soft side, combined with their incredibly hefty form, means that they are not able to take damage very well or move very fast, and with their limited special powers, this results in most of their stats being below average for a fully evolved fighting and ice-type Pokémon. However, they are still quite hardy and have a great deal of stamina to bear, as well as incredible physical power at their disposal, so their base HP and attack stats are above average for a fully evolved Pokemon of both of their types, additionally possessing the highest base attack stat out of all non-legendary Ice-type Pokemon. As such, while they might not always be able to resist the damage from enemy attacks that well, these creatures have a lot of health to spare and can hit incredibly hard, ultimately making them a dangerous threat to have to confront without the benefit of ranged attacks. Dominantly living on land, Crabrawler are unable to feed on the normal types of prey that most crustaceans can handle, and as a result, they primarily live off of the berries that grow on berry trees and similar plants across the Alola region where they are mainly found, and specialize in using their pincers to repeatedly batter these trees until something pops off, or, if they are truly desperate, will use them to climb the trees instead in order to get to the food more readily. This can prove to be a problem for them, however, as it has been observed that Crabrawler will fight among one another for these berries voraciously, attacking each other in a fashion that is very reminiscent of a boxing match, fighting one-on-one until only a single victor is left to claim the berry prize they were fighting over in the first place. Their penchant for climbing berry trees has led them to be tenacious to a fault when it comes to getting up and over obstacles, always striving to get to the top no matter what it is they are climbing, often leading them to try and climb other structures as well, including buildings. Aside from making them a bit difficult to deal with if they are in the way, it can also end badly for them, as they are not always the brightest of creatures and have been known to try and climb Alolan Executor, for which they are usually flung off and potentially stomped upon by the Pokemon their climbing has angered. This quirky behavior, as well as their penchant for releasing foam from their mouth as they faint to try and trick predators into thinking they are ill or poisonous, can make these crabs a bit difficult to handle and even find in some cases, but this only serves to make them that much more energetic in a fight and worth taking a moment to prepare for, if only to avoid getting sucker punched by them when you and your Pokemon are not paying close attention to their movements. Crabrawler are normally unable to evolve in any sort of capacity, but in the Alola region at the very least, there is one way to make it happen. The penchant that Crabrawler have for climbing the highest of peaks to prove themselves seems to have been passed on to many natural structures aside from buried trees, including the legendary Mount Lanakila. However, this icy peak is not the kind of environment that they can normally live within, as the temperatures are simply too low for them to normally survive. Instead of dying completely off after getting lost on the mountain, however, these creatures adapted to this frozen land and eventually gained the ability to evolve when they gain a level of experience on the mountain, transforming into the monstrous Crabominable. In doing so, these creatures grow a thick coat of woolly hair that helps to insulate them against the cold, and, moreover, they actually became capable of using the cold as a weapon in battle by supercooling liquid stored in their claws, becoming partial ice types and immediately gaining access to the Ice Punch attack as soon as they evolve. Over time, this can further translate into them being able to learn the Avalanche attack and, at higher levels, a signature move known as the Ice Hammer attack, a powerful blow that works exactly the same as the Hammer Arm attack, but with Ice-type elemental properties. While a Crabominable can still use their claws like boxing gloves, their pincers have effectively fused together into a solid domed structure, which they preferably use to instead bludgeon and crush others with sweeping blows that are strong enough to smash and topple thick ice blocks and even batter away avalanches with repeating thrusting strikes, serving to make them a far more dangerous threat than Crabrawler could ever be, even if evolution reduces their base speed stat on account of their massive heavy bodies. The hair that covers their form is often used to make some of the most luxurious fabrics in the world, but getting close to them is rarely ever a good idea. For one thing, instead of feeding on berries, these creatures act as ambush predators, burying their bodies into the snow and keeping only a single arm exposed, waiting for a prey item to wander near. As soon as they do, they will quickly raise up their only exposed arm and bring it right down on top of them, crushing their spine and making it much easier for Crabominable to finish them off for a tasty live meal. Moreover, they are extremely aggressive by nature and will indiscriminately throw powerful punches at everything and anything that gets in their way without thinking, even if that means allied Pokemon and trainers, making them a severe hazard to everything if they are not properly trained. Even those that think they have an advantage at a distance are not safe, for if these creatures become particularly agitated and desperate, they can generate a pressure pocket at the base of their claws that, when it reaches a point of critical pressure, will fire off their claw like a rocket, obliterating anything without strong physical defenses, and ultimately showing them to be a terrifying destructive force at any range. Though quirky to the extreme, and definitely not something most would expect to see among crustacean Pokémon, the members of the Crabrawler family are powerful brutes that can more than make themselves a terrifying force on the battlefield if they cannot be completely attacked from a distance. You might have to go to great lengths and on quite the journey in order to grant them access to their full power, but for those that are willing to do a little traveling, the sheer might these beasts can wield can make them terrifying creatures that only the strongest of physical defenses will ever stand a chance against when up close to them. If you ever come across one of these creatures, do yourself a favor and try not to go toe-to-toe with them without strong Pokemon at your side. Even the greatest boxers in the world might have some trouble dealing with these beasts, for if you make even one false step, all it will take is a single strong punch from these crabs, especially if fully evolved, to knock more than just your block off. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description.
No.
With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.